Welcome to Everything Life Coaching. I'm John Kim.
And I'm Noelle Cordeaux. We are the founders of JRNI Coaching.
We're super passionate about all things coaching and want to share what we've learned from over a decade of coaching and training over 1,000 life coaches.
Dive deep into a more meaningful career, find freedom, and make an impact on the world around you.
Hey guys, on today's episode, we are going to talk about a classic. This is under the umbrella of positive psychology, and that is appreciative inquiry. Noelle, good morning.
Good morning.
Would you say this is one of the legs, if there was four, with positive psychology? I hear this concept a lot, but I don't know how important it is when it comes to positive psychology.
Oh, so appreciative inquiry is a framework. And it's a framework that is based on the outcomes of positive psychology. One of the reasons that you've probably heard about it a lot is the coaching framework for change that we favor at JRNI, because it expresses all of the outcomes that have been empirically validated through positive psychology. And, the world is changing in a lot of different ways, but appreciative inquiry is one of the earlier change theories for individuals and organizations that was several years ago just considered truly radical. Through its strengths-based approach. And it's beautiful, it's lovely, it's fun, it feels good. And I get really excited talking about it just because it is such a heart-opening way of approaching the world.
Yeah. So what exactly is appreciative inquiry? If you were to bring it to street level, what would it be?
So appreciative inquiry is a framework, and a framework is, a process, how to move from point A to point B. And this particular process trains folks out of our natural inclination to look at things that are negative, to fix things that are broken, and to point out problems. And it turns it upside down and creates a commitment to look for the best in people, their organizations, and for the world around us.
This is, if everyone was really good at this, it would change the world. It literally changed the world because most of us, we don't scan for good, we scan for bad, obviously, because we're trying to protect ourselves and because of threat. And so to see good in people, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to really feed the positive that takes a lot of effort.
It does take a lot of effort. And that's why this process is so effective, because it's simple, it's accessible. You're simply asking a different set of questions in a 4-point process to move someone to a different understanding and a different emotional embodiment of, whatever topic is at hand.
So I witness you practicing appreciative inquiry, in JRNI with the whole team, and kind of your approach to the company is, a commitment to look for the best in people.
Yes. And it's not only looking at the best in people. That's one aspect of it, to be sure. But it's also looking at what is working well in any given human system. And let's lean in, reflect, and amplify the things that are working well, versus pointing out the things that aren't working. Because from a functional perspective, really, what does that do except tell you have a problem?
It reminds me of the growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And this whole enchilada represents a paradigm shift that needs to take place and happily is taking place in the world of work and community development and sustainable development globally, because it adopts a strengths-based change approach as opposed to a deficit-based change approach.
You just made me really hungry when you said enchilada.
Okay. Well, let's talk about breakfast burritos. So, in the breakfast burrito world, this paradigm shift is looking at, traditional psychology that says, hey, what's wrong with you, versus the the expansive growth of positive psychology and coaching, which focuses on saying, "Hey, what's right with you?" Right?
Yeah.
If you were to dream up how we do this, where would you start?
Well, first, I know that it's a practice, right? So first, I
Mhm.
know that it's not, and like anything, it's not something you just do once. You really have to practice it. It's kind of a craft. You got to pedal the bike. Yeah, so that's one thing I know.
Mhm. You're absolutely right. And there's another aspect of it that I think you're really going to love. And it's something that we talk about often and implicit in appreciative inquiry. Yes, we're asking questions. Yes, we're asking specific sets of questions. But what we're doing with those question prompts is we're enabling a process of sharing positive stories.
Mm. So highlighting things that have happened that your client may not even be aware of or needs to be reminded to prove to them that good things are possible and things are happening.
Yes, and this is so effective with teams because
Yeah.
when you go into work situations, work is drudgery, right? We're all
Yeah.
trucking into the office day after day. But when you actually sit down with a team and you allow that group of people to reflect on their past and present capabilities, their achievements, their unrealized potentials, their shared values, motivations, hopes, dreams, traditions, even. Um, what happens is that people begin to listen to each other. They feel good. They feel seen. They feel heard. They feel inspired. They share information. This generates not only deepening storytellings, but meaningful discussions. And then ultimately, together, you watch people produce new knowledge in concert.
Yeah, I have firsthand experience because I've had toxic jobs and I've worked in places where it was run by an iron fist and everyone was afraid, right? So it just felt like the Death Star and the boss was Darth Vader. And then of course working with you all these years, the space that you create is very different. And I've learned that by applying, appreciative inquiry, by feeding on the gifts and the positive and really bringing that to the surface instead of blaming and shaming people for what they can't do, um, man, that changes the entire workspace. And what it does is it's like putting water and sun on flowers. Like it actually creates people, it allows people to bloom.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And it sounds a lot like magic beans and, bringing it down to the reality level. When you're managing people, when you're managing teams and organizations, part of letting people do what they're good at and allowing them to grow into the best versions of themselves
Yeah.
also involves, letting people lovingly move on when they outgrow their role, their job. And if there's room in the org for that, great. If there's not, um, that's also, part of it. So as we're using this appreciative inquiry approach, it's not always rainbows and unicorns. There is absolutely a point at which these concepts interface with reality. And we
Right.
need to have hard conversations about functionality. When we look at what's going well, the counter to that is what do we need to let go of?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there has to be structure. There has to be accountability. I mean, you're not just creating a playground and allowing people to just, go crazy. So, yeah, of course, I think there's this kind of balance to it.
And the beautiful part of it, I think, which ultimately serves everyone, is gaining familiarity and acceptance that change is constant.
Mhm. Let's talk about the four key stages.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So it's a four-dimensional process, the pro tip here is that we need to think about appreciative inquiry. It's a dreamy space, it's a heady space, and the focus is on imagination and dreaming about the future. rather than concrete intervention. This is not a 5-step coaching process. This is not the hallway conversation. Where do you want to be? What's getting in the way? And action steps. This is a really heady storytelling space that is designed to uncover what's going well in the relationship, enhance mood, enhance feelings, and enhance cohesiveness.
This is my jam. I've been dreaming and visualizing and fantasizing since I was, 10 years old, staring out the window of biology class, wondering all the possibilities that could happen in life.
Yes, I agree. And to a large extent, I do that as well, which is probably why we've been really successful at working with each other over the years. That we, even though it scares me a little bit more than you, we're both able to embrace the, well, what if, what could we, or, well, this goes this way. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but you open books. I actually just sit on them.
Well,
I stare out the
everybody,
window.
everybody needs their chocolate to their peanut butter,
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's play around with this. Let's walk through the 4 steps. And John, we can do this together as a team with our relationship, or you can let me coach you on a relationship or a team that exists outside of me in your professional life. Which one do you want to do?
Cool. I'll let you coach me.
Okay. So think about an important relationship or team that you work with in your professional life.
Yep. Got it.
You got it?
Yeah. Team.
So team, what is that team?
It's the lab, the team I just recently created in the lab. Yeah.
I was hoping you were going to go with that one. Cool. All
Mm.
right. So describe the current state of this relationship. So for those of you who are listening, John runs TAT Lab, and there are lots of really incredible instructors who come into this virtual space and run classes on wide-ranging topics for personal development. Did I get
Yeah.
that right?
Yes. And lots of journey coaches, with
Yeah.
people I've established relationships along the way. So, yeah.
Yep. Journey coaches are awesome. So let's talk about step 1 is describe the current state of your relationship with the team, and how you feel about
Yeah.
all of these humans.
What comes to mind is intimate, garage band, us playing in the sandbox, recess. I feel like the lab is recess, like we're just going out to play. So it's kind of at that early stages, having a really great time and connecting with people.
I'm jealous that I missed that early stage,
Yeah.
right? That's awesome. That's awesome. So, step 1, was just the identification part and the current state of this relationship. So we know it's going to change. We
Yeah.
know that, this is in the early stage, and we're not always going to be at recess. It's going to get real at some point. So
Right.
before we move into thinking about the future, what we first need to do is really celebrating where we're at, and the value of this relationship at each time, because each person makes meaningful contributions to this collective work, and that needs to be celebrated or acknowledged.
So
So
wait, real quick. I love that you said that because my initial step would be not celebration, but to judge and say, "Oh, we need to grow up. The bell needs to ring. We need to get back to class." Like all of the shoulds. So I love that you threw in there is a step of first celebrating. To be present, to acknowledge and have fun. But at the same time, knowing that you do have to grow up, and there's going to be a growth process. But yeah, a great reminder to celebrate.
oh, so this is fucking rich. I'm so glad you said that. Okay. So, everybody at home, here we have John's negativity bias showing up to the coaching conversation and tap
Right.
dancing around with jazz hands, right? So, coaching John, why in all hell does growing up have to be not fun?
Yeah, well, because I have an idea what growing up looks like, and it's not fun. It's responsibility. It's a shitload of meetings. It's all of the grind.
So, can we accept at baseline that it doesn't have to be that way?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that blows my mind. It's like, oh, it doesn't have to grow, like, what does growing up look like? And it doesn't have to be what you are imagining.
Yeah, 100%. And so as we're pulling you into the feeling of appreciative inquiry, this is where we're going.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be suffering.
Right.
We can build this foundation of celebration, and if that's the foundation of the house, let's build the walls in celebration.
Hmm.
Let's build the scaffolding in celebration. Let's just keep that energy flowing because it's vital and valuable.
Yeah.
Okay, so think about a moment that you've had with this team recently that is worth celebrating.
um, we have these monthly meetings, and they've become less about business and more about creating a space where we're just following each other's journeys, and um, they're always meaningful. So that's what comes to mind when I think about celebration.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what qualities did you bring to the table in those?
I'm the connector. I'm the person that connector, sharing stories, doing life together. That all of that is what I try to bring to the table.
Awesome. So what qualities did your team members bring to the table?
Vulnerability, transparency, trust, a willingness, open mind, support, encouragement.
Okay. Awesome. And so now we're starting to generate this working list of strengths
Hmm.
that if we were going to write these on a chalkboard and say, all right, I want everybody in the team to look at this and know this is who you are.
Hmm.
This is who we are collectively. Um, so now we're going to move into the acknowledgement that maintaining these strengths for and with each other, this is a collaborative effort. So it's going to take maintenance, it's going to need to continue. So as you're thinking about yourself, you said you're the connector here.
Hmm.
Um, what do you value the most about yourself that contributes to that strength?
Doing life with these people instead of telling them to do tasks, like actually engagement, or leading by example kind of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then what do you value the most about your team in co-creating and maintaining this relationship?
How organic the meeting was, and how I've known them, and some are new and some are friends. So what do I value? I value our relationship.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the relationship itself is actually an entity that gives life to this collective work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if I were coaching you all as a team, we might say, okay, does everyone agree that the relationships with and for each other need to be protected
Yes. Yes, for sure.
as we roll with this? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so everybody would then have that to refer back to as time goes on of, if there is a conflict, which inevitably, humans have conflicts,
Yeah.
it can be used to center back and say, hey, even though there's this conflict here, remember we all made the commitment to each other to center our relationship. So, what do we need to do to make sure that as we work through this conflict, the relationship is being protected?
Right.
Mhm. How does it make you feel for me to kind of lay that out on the table?
It's great. It kind of reminds me of the foundational stuff, the soil, the core. As you build teams and things grow and there's distractions and stuff, and it could easily get sidetracked, and the spirit of the team or group can start to fade. So it reminds me to kind of come back to what it's about.
Yes. And the beauty of this process, the beauty of this framework is it's 4 points. And you can sit everybody down and run these 4 points. Whenever you like. As I was preparing for today, I was thinking, oh, I'm totally going to do this with our team at JRNI. Like we're
Mhm.
we're going to run this at some point this week because it's so important to remember
Right.
why we did the damn thing in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're moving into the really cool territory. And this is step 3, which is dreaming. So
Right.
it's important to note that when you're working with clients, everybody's going to need to spend uh, more time than others in different areas. So, if you have a team that is new, or you have a team that's kind of gotten to a sour point because they've been together forever, you might need to spend more time in the discover phase of really drilling down on the why and the strengths in all the relationship. If you have a team that is just starting out, they might need to spend more time in the dream phase because this is all about thinking and visualizing an ideal future.
Right.
And it's not the action steps of the ideal future, it's the feeling of the ideal future. So it's super important to differentiate between the two.
Mhm.
So here are some questions that can get you moving in this direction. Um, so for you, John, as the leader, what would you like to see more of in your relationship with your team members that would create a greater feeling of harmony and peace?
Having fun while we work, courage to be weird and work outside of the box, um, and just continuing to be transparent and vulnerable, using the team to just generally be better people and grow in life.
Yeah. So now turning the dial a little bit towards yourself, what words would you like your team members to use to describe you that would make you feel proud?
Oh man, um, trust, um, fun, crazy in a good way. This whole thing, building the bus while you're driving it. That term really resonates with me. Uh, yeah, helping people can be fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you may have kind of given a lead in to this next question, but I'd like you to drill down a little bit further with it. If we're really thinking about, these humans that you love who are on your team that you're building the bus with, what hopes and dreams do you have for these relationships?
I want to help them accomplish their goals.
Awesome.
Yeah, but also designing a meaningful and non-suffering life while doing it.
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful. How do you think that your team would feel to hear this from you?
Oh, I mean, hopefully it would reassure them that they're in the right place and to keep swimming with the team because that's everyone's goal.
Yeah. Well, luckily, you have this podcast recording that you can play. So,
Yes.
so now we're going to bring it home. And I can't stress enough, depending on the group or the individual that you're working with, you match the pace learner. So if somebody really needs to stay in the dream phase for a while, let them. And the design phase, which is step 4, this takes a long time. The design phase needs a lot of different aspects of consideration. So we're talking here about moving out of the squishy dreamlike phase into bringing it to interface with reality and forming concrete steps. So it's half reality, and then half let's jump this thing with emotions. So what concrete steps can you take as an individual to help you, John, realize your own hopes and dreams?
Oh man, what concrete? Going back to the this idea of creating that safe space where they're able to play, supporting and championing their unique individual stories and goals, which I may even disagree with, but they're not my goals; they're theirs, and allowing them to swim as you've allowed me to swim, and me experiencing that and how that's really changed my life. I want to give back to other coaches coming up. Um, to give them that because I've also experienced the other side, which is burnout and all of that stuff with that comes with this.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I were working with John and this team, I would be spending a lot more time here. And the direction that I would take it is to be like, all right, John, you have some firsthand knowledge here. Let's make a list of everything that once contributed to your own burnout. Let's
Hmm.
make a list of everything that gave you life. And
Hmm.
then you have your very own playbook on how to do it with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, then you would do the same thing with a group. What can we do together to realize our hopes and dreams? And then, here's where you really bring it home. And this is where we tie in future visioning, which is so important for coaching. So, one of the things that I want to note here is we didn't do a lot of the full future vision at the beginning. We didn't start out with like, let's crystallize this. We were really looking at what's working, what are our hopes and dreams? How do we want to feel? And so now we're going to look at where the reality comes in of looking back over your life 10 years from now. What specific actions and behaviors, if you are successful as this kind of leader, what would give you the greatest sense of pride, meaning, and fulfillment? What actions and behaviors that you, John, engage in will you be like, damn, I did that right?
So it's not a feeling; it's actions and
It's,
behaviors that I'm doing.
yeah.
I would say observing because it's kind of taking a life of its own. I don't know if that's a cop out answer. It's almost like letting go of something. It's almost like the parent watching their their kid go to college and giving that kid space and life. And so, like, if that was the lab, if that was a kid, like actually stepping away from it and watching it live and breathe. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah.
And so validating you, like that's empowerment. That's empowering others. That is moving away from business as usual, where the person who's in charge has to be prescriptive, has to get in there and do everything. This is the soil that we use to create self-managing teams. And I don't get it right all the time, but I strive for very much the same way of being.
Yeah.
Um, and part of it from my own experience is knowing that you're always going to be surprised
Mhm.
and looking at it and saying, "Whoo, there's a surprise." Oh,
Right.
well, okay, cool. Let's look at what happened. And that's I think you're on the right track in preparing yourself for this.
Yeah, I love running with a kite, hoping that one day I could let it go and it'll kind of fly on its own. I mean, not
Mhm.
not just with this, but just in general. I think that's it's one of the things about life that makes it so beautiful and rewarding.
Yeah. So how was this for you?
It was great. It was a good reminder. I mean, even just talking about it out loud was very helpful in that it kind of gives you a path. So you're not just running around with the head chopped off. You have some direction. Some of it's affirming. Some of it may need adjustment. But yeah, it's a good I guess a reboot, if you will.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And now I wonder about your heart center and your relationship to this work. Have you what are you experiencing now that you weren't experiencing before we did this exercise?
Affirmation, calm, feeling
Awesome.
good. Yeah, centered.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm feeling, and this is characteristic of me, but like exploding love.
Mm.
Like I'm feeling exploding love for this process, the work that you're doing with others, and just like pride, like hell yeah, take this shit forward.
So thank you for that so much. I really appreciate that. And I actually feel that exact same thing when I see a journey coach or a friend or someone that, just a year or two ago was so afraid, and now they got like their first client, or they made their first, audio course, or they're active on Instagram, whatever it is. When they are now swimming toward their true north, I feel that heart explosion.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, everyone, this was Appreciative Inquiry. John, thank you for being the guinea pig.
Yeah, you can send me an invoice.
I will. And if you have questions about this, if you'd like to learn more, this is directly what we teach, this framework in Journey Coaching. And Deanna, who teaches it, is an amazing facilitator
Yeah.
and has run this program in corporations all over the world. And so you'd be learning from one of the very best.
Yep. Thank you guys. Be well.
Be
See you in
well.
class. Thanks for listening to Everything Life Coaching. If you're feeling the draw to become a coach, head to journey.co/everything to explore a new career that brings fulfillment, gives you a true sense of purpose, and a strong community to do it in. We created Journey Coaching to equip you with the tools, training, and community you need to attain your goals.
Join Journey Coaching and begin your journey towards personal freedom and a transformative state of growth today. That's JRNI.co/everything.